There are moments in history that nobody photographed properly. Not because cameras were absent, but because what happened in the room could not be captured by a lens. This was one of those moments. Two European psychologists, men trained in the most sophisticated Western understanding of the human mind available in their time. Men who had spent their careers studying suffering, mapping it, developing frameworks for healing it. Traveled to India to sit before a woman who had never studied psychology, who held no degree, who lived simply, traveled constantly, and spent her days receiving broken people from every corner of the world. They came with genuine questions, professional questions, the kind of questions that arise when a person has spent years trying to help others and begins to sense quietly that something essential is still missing from their tools. What happened next was not a debate, not a comparison of frameworks, not a polite exchange between Eastern and Western perspectives on mental health. It was something closer to a gentle dismantling. And what she said in that room, quietly, precisely, without a single wasted word, has not lost a single gram of its weight in the decades since. The first question they asked her cut straight to the heart of what had brought them there. They said, "Ma, psychologists cure patients by talking to them. With you, it seems that your emanation cures people even without words. It is our endeavor to help people. What is the most essential thing we should do for them?" She did not answer the question they asked. She answered the question underneath it. She said, "Who in this world can be called normal?" Sit with that for a moment. Two trained psychologists had just described their life's work, healing people who were not normal, restoring them to some standard of psychological health. And she had quietly removed the ground from under the entire project. She said, "Everyone appears to be mad after one thing or another. Some after money, some after beauty, some after music, others after their children, and so forth. Nobody is really quite balanced. Not the patients, not the psychologists, not the people watching them, not you listening to this right now. The madness is not a condition that some people have and others have escaped. It is the universal condition of a human being who has not yet found what the mind is actually looking for. This was not cruelty. She was not dismissing the genuine suffering of people who come to psychologists. She was saying something more radical and more compassionate than any diagnosis could say. The suffering does not belong only to the sick. It belongs to everyone who has not yet found the one thing that actually stills the mind. The psychologists asked, "What then is the remedy?" And here she gave them something so precise, so complete, and so simple that the mind almost cannot hold it. She said, "Just as one does not water the leaves of a tree but its roots, So one has to grapple with man's disease at its root. Think about that image. A tree is suffering. Its leaves are yellowing. Its branches are weak. And a person walks up to it and begins carefully, attentively, skillfully, watering the leaves, one by one, with great care and great technique and great knowledge about the exact composition of the best possible water. And the tree keeps suffering because the leaves are not where the life is. She said, man's root lies in the brain. Therefore, the remedy for all ills is to still the mind. When man's mind has been stilled, all will be well with him, both physically and psychologically. Not some things, not most things, all. She was not saying that therapy is worthless. She was saying that every therapeutic technique, however sophisticated, however carefully applied, is watering the leaves. The root has not been touched. And until the root is touched, the tree cannot truly heal, no matter how skillfully the leaves are tended. They asked, how does the mind become still? And she gave them the answer that she had been giving everyone who came to her in 1,000 different forms. Across decades of conversations with scholars and farmers and kings and children, and the utterly broken and the merely curious. By treading the path that leads to the realization of, who am I? She pointed to the body. She said, your body, which was once young and is now old with its graying hair, does not last forever. It is not the real I. Therefore, man has to find out who he really is. When he tries to do this, when the question is actually held, actually followed, actually pursued with genuine seriousness, something happens that no external technique can produce. The mind is supplied with the right nourishment that will calm it. She said the right sustenance for the mind cannot be had from anything that is of this world, and therefore perishable. It can come solely from that which is eternal. The taste of the eternal will still the mind, not the idea of the eternal, the taste of it. There is a difference between reading a description of water and drinking. She was saying, the mind is thirsty for something it has been trying to drink from every worldly object, every achievement, every relationship, every experience, and none of them are water. They are images of water, and no amount of drinking images satisfies thirst. The only thing that satisfies the mind's thirst is the direct taste of what the mind actually is, of what is underneath the mind. The awareness that was there before the first thought arose this morning and will be there after the last thought dissolves tonight. She said, the universe was created out of joy, and this is why you find joy in the things of this world. Without joy, life is an ordeal. You must try to attain that great joy which has brought forth the world. Not a fragment of joy borrowed from a temporary thing. The great joy, the original joy. The joy that created everything, that is present in everything, that you have been touching briefly through every worldly pleasure, and loosen again because you are touching it through the object rather than recognizing it as your own nature. Then they asked her something that perhaps surprised even them as they asked it. They said, "Ma, what is the special contribution a woman has to make as apart from a man?" And she gave an answer that went somewhere nobody expected. She said, "A woman is essentially a mother, and consequently, her duty is to serve everyone. Further, since she is daughter, wife, and mother all in one, she must recognize the oneness of the three." But then she said something that should stop you completely. She said, "In every woman is contained a man, and in every man a woman. If man were not contained within you, you would not be able to recognize a man. And if woman were not contained in a man, he would be unable to recognize a woman." This is not psychology. This is not sociology. This is a direct pointing at the wholeness that every human being carries within them. The completeness that does not need to be found outside, in another person, in a relationship, in anything external. She said, "One of the most important tasks of a woman is to discover the man in herself, not as a rejection of femininity, as the discovery of totality." They asked, "What then is the special contribution a man can give?" She said, "Man is the reflection of the Supreme Purusha, the one who upholds the universe. True manliness means divinity." And then she said the most important thing of all. She said, "There is Atma, which is beyond man and woman, beyond the distinction, beyond the duality, beyond the entire conversation about what men contribute and what women contribute and where the line between them falls. There is Atma, the self, the awareness, the original presence that exists before any identity was added to it, before this body, before this gender, before this name, before this history, before everything that the world and time and experience layered onto what was always simply here." She said, "Everyone has to find that Atma that lies hidden within himself. It is the task of every human being to unfold both the man and woman potentially contained within him or herself, and to realize the Atma, which is beyond man and woman." The two psychologists left that room. What they carried with them, we do not fully know. But something about this conversation survived. It was written down. It traveled. It reached you. And it is still asking you the question she was always asking everyone who came near her. Not, have you found the right therapy? Not, have you understood your patterns? Not, have you achieved the right balance? Who are you before the body that will not last forever? Before the mind that is seeking nourishment, it cannot find imperishable things. Before the man and the woman and every role and every story you have accumulated in the years of this life. Who is the one that has been here through all of it? She spent her entire life beside that question, not studying it, not describing it from a distance, living from the answer. And everyone who sat close enough to her, the psychologists, the kings, the broken, the seeking, the ordinary and the desperate and the curious, all of them felt something in her presence that their best frameworks could not fully name. Because what she carried was not information. It was the direct living reality of having found what she was pointing at. And what she is pointing at tonight, through these words, through this silence, across whatever distance separates you from that room where two psychologists asked their careful questions, is still here, still available, still asking, who am I? Stay with that question. Let it go where it goes. Let it burn through everything that is not the answer. Let it take you all the way to where it leads. Because where it leads, Anandamayi Ma knew and embodied and lived without a single moment's interruption, is the only place the mind's thirst is finally, completely, and permanently satisfied. The taste of the eternal, right here, right now, already present, waiting only for the recognition that it always already was.